An obese girl was given to a poor farmer as punishment. She didn't know he owned thousands of acres and would love her like no one ever did. They didn't ask her name when they dropped her off. The man from the city barely looked her in the eyes, muttering something about teaching her a lesson. The girl, maybe 18 or 19, stood trembling, clutching the strap of a worn-out duffel bag. Her body was heavy, not just with weight but with years of ridicule, mockery, and silent sobs muffled into her pillow. Her parents had agreed she was too much, too big, too loud, too stubborn. They didn't need her anymore. So they handed her off like unwanted property to a man they called the poor farmer. The punishment, they said, would make her humble. What they never expected was that the punishment would become the first real taste of love she had ever known. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love to transform lives, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Stories Collection. Share this video with someone who needs a little hope today. Her name was Lena. She had grown up in a wealthy, cruel world, one where love was conditional, measured in pounds and inches. Her mother spent more time at spas than looking at her daughter, and her father only acknowledged her when it was to shame her for another dress that didn't fit. No one had ever told Lena she was beautiful, not once in her entire life. Not even when she looked radiant in the mirror, cheeks flushed after dancing alone in her room, pretending she was worthy of joy. They said she was spoiled, ungrateful, and disobedient. But really, she was just hurting. And when she started talking back, when she refused to starve herself to fit their standards, they decided to send her away. The man who received her was named Jonah. He was weathered by the sun, his skin darkened from years in the fields, hands calloused and strong. Lena expected to be scolded or bossed around immediately, but Jonah simply looked at her, nodded once, and carried her bag to a wooden cabin on the edge of a vast, quiet property. The house wasn't fancy, wooden floors, clean sheets, a fireplace, but it was warm and real. "This will be your home," he said simply, before retreating back into the fields. The first week was silence. Jonah didn't ask questions, and Lena didn't offer explanations. She was scared, confused, and angry. She tried to call her parents once, and they didn't pick up. The second time, the number had been blocked. She was alone. For meals, Jonah cooked hearty, honest food, cornbread, stews, roasted vegetables from his garden. He always left a plate on the table for her, no comment about portion sizes, no judgment in his eyes. Slowly, the anxiety in her chest began to ease. One morning, she watched him from the window. He was tending to the fields, his movements slow but certain, his clothes dusty, and his hat shielding him from the sun. She felt a strange stir in her chest. He wasn't rich, not in the way her family valued. But there was something deeply steady about him. Grounded, gentle. It took her 3 weeks to say thank you. Just 2 words. She whispered them over the dinner table, eyes down. Jonah paused, then gave a small smile. "You're welcome." And that was it. But it unlocked something in her heart. Over time, Lena began to help. Not because she was forced to, but because she wanted to. She fed the chickens, cleaned the porch, helped water the crops. Her muscles ached, but in a good way. She was strong. Not broken, not worthless, strong. Every evening, they'd sit on the porch with sweet tea. Jonah never asked about her past, never made her feel small. One evening, he pointed to the horizon and said, "I own everything from here to that far tree line." She blinked. "What?" He nodded. "About 4,000 acres, in total. Been in the family for generations." She stared at him, stunned. "But, they said you were poor." Jonah shrugged. "They assumed. People often do." It hit her like thunder. Her punishment was actually a blessing in disguise. Her family had wanted to humiliate her by giving her to someone they thought was beneath them. But Jonah, in his dusty boots and faded flannel, was richer in ways they'd never understand. And now, for the first time, she was starting to feel rich too. Seasons passed. Lena's body didn't change much, but her heart did. She stood taller, smiled more. She began painting again, covering the old barn walls with murals, fields of sunflowers, rushing rivers, skies blooming with stars. Jonah watched her with quiet pride. Sometimes, when she laughed, he'd catch himself staring. Not with pity or amusement, but admiration. One rainy afternoon, Lena found an old photo album in the attic. There, she saw pictures of Jonah's younger days. Handsome, quiet, always working. She asked him about it that night. He looked away, voice low. "I was married once. She passed, years ago. I stopped letting people in after that." Lena felt a lump in her throat. She reached out, placed her hand gently over his. He didn't pull away. The next spring, something bloomed between them, soft, unspoken at first. He started picking wildflowers and leaving them at her door. She began baking him pies. One night, under a canopy of stars, he told her, "You deserve to be loved, just as you are." She cried, for all the years no one had said that. By the end of the year, she had stopped trying to lose weight. Not because she gave up, but because she no longer needed to change herself to be loved. Jonah had taught her what real love looked like: steady, patient, kind. Not once had he ever asked her to shrink herself. Instead, he built a world around her where she could grow. Word of their story eventually spread back to the city. Her family sent a letter, apologizing, asking to visit. Lena read it, then placed it in a drawer. Maybe someday. But not now. She wasn't living for their approval anymore. The land flourished. So did their love. And when Jonah asked her to marry him, down on one knee in a field of lavender, Lena said yes, tears streaming down her cheeks. Not because she needed to be saved, but because she had finally found a place where she was safe, cherished, and deeply, undeniably loved. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe to Stories Collection. Share it with someone who needs to know they are worthy of love, just as they are. Speech balloon special request. In the comments, let us know, have you ever been judged unfairly, only to later prove your worth in unexpected ways? Your story might inspire someone else. Of course, here's the extended continuation of the story in the same emotional, cinematic tone, expanding to bring more emotional depth, conflict, transformation, and resolution, appropriate for an 8,000-word YouTube video. Lena had never been to a town like the one near Jonah's farm. It had no towering buildings, no designer stores, no whispers behind her back when she walked down the street. Here, the bakery owner waved at her each morning. The old lady who ran the flower shop once gave her a free bouquet just because. Her smile was brighter than the sunflowers. For the first time in her life, Lena began to feel seen. Not just noticed, but truly seen, as someone worth knowing. But peace never comes without its tests. One morning, while helping Jonah at the local farmer's market, she overheard two women whispering near the tomato stand. "That's her," one of them said. "The girl from the city they dumped on Jonah. She doesn't belong here." The words sliced through Lena like glass. She turned away, pretending not to hear, but her chest tightened. That night, she stood in front of the mirror, tears falling freely. The old voice in her head returned, cruel and cold, "You'll never be enough. You'll always be too much." Jonah found her there, silent in the dim glow of the lantern light. He walked up behind her, rested his hands on her shoulders, and simply whispered, "They don't know you like I do." She crumbled then, sobbing into his arms. And he held her, strong and unwavering, until her heart stopped shaking. But Lena was not the kind of woman to stay down for long. She decided to show the town, and herself, just how much strength she carried. With Jonah's encouragement, she started a small workshop in the barn, teaching kids how to paint, how to find beauty in their own reflections. The walls became covered in art, each brushstroke a rebellion against judgment, each color a testimony of healing. Children laughed under her guidance. Parents watched, surprised. People who once sneered began to smile. And then, something remarkable happened. The mayor of the town invited her to speak at the local school. She stood nervously before a room full of teenagers, some wide-eyed, some skeptical. She took a deep breath and told them her truth. About being mocked for her size, shamed by her family, discarded like she didn't matter. And then, about the farmer who didn't try to fix her, only loved her. She ended with one sentence that silenced the room. "You are not a burden, you are a story waiting to be told." The applause was thunderous, and it echoed far beyond the school walls. Jonah had been standing quietly in the back of the room the whole time. When she turned and saw him clapping with tears in his eyes, she knew this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about blooming, flourishing, becoming more than what others believed she could be. But life has a way of circling back and testing whether you've truly grown. One afternoon, a black car pulled up at the end of the long dirt road leading to the farmhouse. Lena was trimming lavender when she looked up and froze. It was her mother. Older now, thinner still, eyes masked behind large sunglasses. She stepped out slowly, not with the arrogance Lena remembered, but with hesitation. Behind her, her father stood, unsure, carrying a briefcase. "We heard about the land," her father began, before she even spoke. "About the workshops. You've changed." Lena didn't smile. She didn't cry. She stood tall, lavender in one hand, strength in the other. "I didn't change. I just stopped believing your lies." Her mother looked away. Her father sighed. "We came to make peace." But peace, Lena had learned, is not something someone gives you, it's something you build with your own hands. "I'm happy now," she said, her voice calm. "You can stay for dinner. But only if you leave your judgment at the door." Jonah made them roasted chicken and fresh baked bread that night. The table was quiet, but not uncomfortable. Lena spoke about the crops, the art programs, the community projects she'd started. Her parents listened, quietly humbled. When they left the next day, they didn't take her with them. They didn't try. Because they finally saw, she didn't belong to them anymore. She belonged to herself. The seasons changed once more. The fields turned golden, the sky stretched wide, and the farm buzzed with life. Jonah and Lena married beneath the same tree where he'd once told her she was worthy of love. She wore a white dress that hugged every curve proudly, a crown of wildflowers in her hair, and a smile that lit up the land. Guests came from all over the county, children from her workshops, old farmers, the same flower shop. Lady who cried through the ceremony. As Jonah spoke his vows, he paused to look into her eyes. "You were never a punishment. You were my gift, and every day with you feels like a miracle." Lena took his hand, her voice steady and tearful. "Thank you, for loving me before I ever believed I was worth loving." They danced barefoot under the stars that night, the whole farm glowing with lanterns and laughter. And in that moment, with the world wrapped around her like a warm blanket, Lena knew, she was finally home. To anyone out there who has ever been told you are too much, not enough, or unworthy, Lena's story is a light in the darkness. You are not what others call you. You are who you choose to become. If this story moved your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Stories Collection, and share it with someone who needs to believe again. Every like, every comment helps this story reach another soul who's forgotten their worth. Speech balloon special request. Comment below with the most powerful lesson you've ever learned about self-worth or love. Your words might be the sign someone desperately needs.